Hi guys, today we're going to be doing completing the square, which is really helpful for questions in the SAT or just quadratics in general. So, let's go on to the first question. X squared plus 4x plus 1 equals 0. Okay, so how I like to do it is I look at the middle number, so the coefficient of the x, which is 4. So then I do x plus half of 4 is 2, x plus 2 squared. Now, why do I do this? You'll see. So, what is x plus 2 squared? Well, that's just x squared plus 4x plus 4. So, let's just focus on this little orange thing that I selected. So, we have this, but we have this extra 4 that we don't want. So, I'm just going to subtract a 4, minus 4 plus 1 equals 0. And let me erase this part. So, now I have x plus 2 squared minus 3 equals 0. So, x plus 2 squared equals 3. So now I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So square root of this side and square root of this side. Remember the plus or minus square root 3 is x plus 2. So now my answer to this equation is going to be x equals plus or minus root 3 minus 2. And that's our answer. So I know I went a little bit fast there, so let me break down each of my steps. First, I looked at this coefficient of the x value and I took half of that. So I got x plus 2 squared. Now, where did I get this minus 4 from? Well, we said x plus 2 squared is x squared plus 4x plus 4. So we have this x plus 4x here and this x plus 4x here, but we have this extra plus 4 that we don't want. So how do we get rid of a plus 4? We're going to subtract a 4. So now I have minus 4 plus 1 equals 0. So then I simplify that out. X plus 2 squared minus 3 equals 0. And then x plus 2 squared equals 3. Square root both sides. Make sure to remember this plus or minus, right? And why is this plus or minus here? Well, 3 squared is 9, right? But isn't minus 3 squared also 9? So you have to count that it could be a positive or it could be a negative. Okay? So that's just a little aside. I'm sure you guys already knew that. But the reason that we do this method called completing the square is because you can't factor this normally, right? You can't factor this normally. You could use quadratic equation, but I feel like this is a lot easier than writing minus b plus or minus square root b squared, right? Blah, 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 blah. I feel like this is a lot easier than that, and it's a lot more intuitive, at least in my opinion. And if you still don't get it, that's okay. We have another question. Now, this one, I'm going to do something a little bit weird. I'm going to divide everything by 2. Okay? So this is going to give me x squared minus 4x plus 3 over 2 equals 0. And you might be thinking, okay, I feel like I made this a little bit harder. Now I just have an extra fraction here. Yes, I do, but it's okay. And anyway, we need practice with fractions, so it's not that big of a deal. So remember, like we said, look at the coefficient of the x value is minus 4. What's half of minus 4? Minus 2. So I get x minus 2 squared. So now what do I get extra from here? So x minus 2 squared. What's my extra? What do I get extra from there? Well, it's going to be a 4, but if you can't see that, then you can always expand it out. So this would be, right, x minus 2 squared is the same as this. So it would be x squared minus 4x plus 4. So we have this x minus 4x. Now we have this extra plus 4. So how do we get rid of a plus 4? We're going to subtract a 4. Now, remember, x minus 2 squared is the same thing as x squared minus 4x plus 4, which is why we subtract the 4, plus 3 over 2 equals 0. And then we just do our algebra, which you guys are masters at. So I'll just write this out for you guys. Minus 3. I'll speed this up a little bit too. Okay, so now we have x minus 2 squared equals 5 over 2. So now same thing as last time. We're going to take the square root of both sides. So x minus 2, right, we square root both sides, equals plus or minus root 5 over 2, which means x equals 2 plus or minus square root 5 over 2. And boom, that's our answer. Now, this is something a little bit crazy, okay? I know this looks long, but imagine if you had to do this with the quadratic equation. That would be a lot longer, okay? So, again, I'll walk through my steps one more time. The first step I did, look at this coefficient of the x value, not the x squared, the x term. And half of minus 4 is minus 2, so I just did x minus 2 squared, right? So whatever the half of this value is, you just do x plus or minus half of that squared. And then we found out that x minus 2 squared is x squared minus 4x plus 4. So we have that x squared minus 4x term. We just had this extra plus 4. And to get rid of that plus 4, we subtracted a 4. And then plus 3 over 2, we did all that math. And then our answer was x equals 2 plus or minus square root 5 over 2. Alright. Last question. Same thing here. We're going to do the same thing as last time. This one's a little bit easier because I can divide everything by 3 and it will give me an integer. So it would be x squared plus 4x minus 3 equals 0. Right? I divided everything by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 9 divided by 3 equals 0. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at half of my... Oh wait. These are all 4. I didn't even mean for that to happen. Okay, whatever. So the coefficient of my x term is 4. So remember, it's going to be x... Sorry. Okay, let me repeat that. The coefficient of the x term is 4, and half of that is 2. So it's going to be x plus 2. It's not minus 2, it's plus 2. So remember, we take half of the coefficient of 4, and then we add it to x squared. Right? So x plus 2 squared. Now, what did we say x plus 2 squared was? It would be x squared plus 4x plus 4. So, we have this x plus 4x, and we have this x plus 4x, but what's our extra term? Plus 4. And how do we get rid of a plus 4? We subtract a 4. So now we just keep going. X plus 2 squared minus 7 equals 0. X plus 2 squared equals 7. X plus 2, square root both sides, equals plus or minus root 7. So then we get x equals plus or minus root 7 minus 2, or you could write it as minus 2 plus or minus root 7. And boom, that's our answer. So, one last time, we're going to walk through this. Let me use orange. This is this is really colorful. Sorry about that. Alright, so we look at the coefficient of the x term, and we said that was a plus 4. Half of plus 4 is plus 2, or positive 2. So that's where I got this from. X plus 2 squared. Right? X plus 2 squared is equal to x squared plus 4x plus 4. But if we do that, we're going to end up with an extra plus 4 that we don't want. So how do we account for that? We're going to add a minus 4. So we're going to subtract that out. And then we put the minus 3 down, equals 0. And then this part, I feel like these steps are easy. It's this step right here. This step is the hardest one. Let me erase this. This step right here, underlined in orange, is the hardest one. Okay? It's hard to understand how did I get from x plus 4x to x plus 2 squared? Just remember, just take half of the second term. Okay? So half of the second term is 2, right? Plus 4, half of 4 is 2. So that's how I got x plus 2 squared. Or you can think about it like this. X plus what squared will give me this first two terms. That's also how you can think about it. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments. And I'll see you guys in the next one.